Hey, how's it going out there, everybody? Gun Psychiatrist here, and boy, we're winding down to the last semester of school. This is for the FTE 210 class, which is the AR10 capstone project or AR10 build. And this is going to be the week one discussion. So sit back. We got a really interesting topic this week with a resource of the famous cackling cow, a pantsuit I love to hate, Hillary Clinton. All right, let's get started. A high-profile politician, Hillary Clinton, once described AR-style rifles as weapons of war. Members of the shooting community collectively disagreed with the classification, but the historical connection between modern sporting rifles and military applications is undeniable. Research the modern sporting rifle and your favorite hunting, shooting, and other firearm publications and consider the following questions. So for the first question, was the AR originally designed for military use? Though it was designed with the intentions to sell it to the military, we have to be a little bit more specific as to who its creators intended to sell it to and why they formed a business to make the firearm. This is critical. The creators of the AR-10 platform went into business to make money with the intention of selling the rifle to governments and companies around the world who would then distribute it to whoever they wanted to. Additionally, the rifle was intended to replace the M14 service rifle, which, let's face it, it has been possessed by both civilians and military alike worldwide. As far as this specifically being designed for military use, not really. It was designed so people could make money off of it and bring new innovation into a market of ideas because, well, America's not a communist country, or are we? What historical precedence is there for the integration of military weapons into the sporting arms community? It's called the Second Amendment to the Constitution of the United States. Plain and simple. There's no such thing as a sporting arms community. That's a lie. Arms are not for sporting. They're for a very specific purpose and were intended by a very specific purpose by our founding fathers. Remington 700 and M1A1, 1911, of course, a slew of other arms that are so-called military weapons. Since the left likes to pick and choose when they want to follow the Constitution, let's look at the definition of arms. And to do this, I had to pull examples from, of course, the term of the time from the Webster's Dictionary of 1928, where it defines arms as weapons of offense or armor for defense and protection of the body. Second definition would be war hostility. To be in arms, and it gives a list of objectives of to be in arms or to call to arms. So to be in arms is to be in a state of hostility or military life. And there's a slew of other objectives that come after that to describe what arms are. But throughout the rest of the definition, we find plenty of objectives in front of arms. However, when we look at the Second Amendment, we find no qualifying objective words in front of where arms appears, to keep and bear arms. The founders didn't really want to entitle future generations to assume which arms they were talking about. The last 14 words of the Second Amendment is broad for a reason. The founders did not pass the Second Amendment for any type of sporting purpose, unless you consider fighting tyranny a sport, in which the case I do. Sporting arms is a lie in itself. Of course, in my book it is. It has nothing to do with the Second Amendment. Furthermore, when you look at all the genocidal maniacs of the 19th and 20th centuries that killed and murdered over 220 million people, like Hitler, Stalin, now that number's combined obviously, but Hitler, Stalin, Pol Pot of Cambodia, Mao Zedong, all of these psychopaths, all of this trash. The one thing they always spoke of on the soapbox when they were trying to carry out their rabid gun control agendas is that these guns are not for sporting purposes. Sound familiar? Sound like any garbage politicians that we have today? Sound like the cackling cow Hillary Clinton? Yeah, I wonder why. Because these people, once they got the guns, they were able to carry out mass genocide. and murder over 220 million human souls in the 19th and 20th century alone, which is still going on in some countries if you look into the Middle East and other areas where these genocides are being carried out. Because why? They have a disarmed populace. Look at Mexico, case in point. The cartels run rabid all over Mexico. They run over the people. They murder people. They chop their heads off. The people are disarmed. The reason that doesn't happen here in America is because we're armed. But these little stupid arguments about sporting purpose, man, and the size of the barrel's 16 inches and the way the gun looks. All of these arguments are complete BS because the people at the top that are perpetuating this propaganda are really genocidal maniacs that want to kill you and your family. How else do you explain it? Because people that talk like Hitler, like Stalin, like Pol Pot II of Cambodia, when they say those things, we have to look at the past to be able to understand the future. That's a famous quote right there. So at the end of the day, when we look at all this stuff, this sporting stuff, it wasn't really passed for all those reasons. It was passed to defend people from oppression in governments that might become a little too out of control. And there again, throughout the history of the Constitution and throughout the history of our founding fathers, they strongly believed in what? Checks and balances. In the Revolutionary War, the War of 1812, the Whiskey Rebellion, and plenty of others, the people bore the same arms their government had. To strip the people of the right to bear the same arms as their government is to render them defenseless. Slaves are made in such ways. And that's a fact. 3. What roles do firearms like the AR-10 play in today's shooting community outside of military use? The AR-10 can play any role the Second Amendment deems necessary. Shall not be infringed is really the only role they play. Why do I need one? None of your damn business. Because the Second Amendment says I can have one. Why on earth is the school using Hillary Clinton, a war criminal who has committed treason against the United States, as a resource to lecture students about gun rights? My gosh. Anyways, sporting arms is a lie. It always has been. It's a lie that was started by the NRA back in 1871, which, of course, Carl Frederick, one of the presidents of the NRA, said in his 1968 issue of the American Rifleman that the whole inception, the NRA since its very inception, has been dedicated to workable and enforceable gun control. They're the worst and most anti-gun organization out there when it comes to defending Americans' gun rights. The NRA is terrible at it. They passed every major gun control law in the United States and call it for a sporting purpose. The Second Amendment isn't for sporting purposes. It's for defense. The founders weren't worried that the local deer population was going to grow hostile and try to take over the United States. No, they knew that men would grow hostile and try to take over the United States. In essence, if you disarm the people to the point where they don't have the firearms that their government have, you've essentially disarmed the people. Yeah, granted, a rifle's better than nothing, but how can you fight against a 30 millimeter cannon or a 20 millimeter cannon or all those things? I submit this is why we've come to the place that we have in this country. Everything was based on checks and balances. And the checks and balances that were put in the Constitution were also put into the Second Amendment. The people are a check and balance on their government. Thanks for watching, and look forward to your comments below. See you next week.